man to do the formal introductions is Bob Hepburn, and he's the Director of Community Relations and Communications at the Star.
Thanks, Tina. So Joe Clark's coming. I heard him today say that the Prime Minister should come clean about the Senate scandal. So maybe next week you can ask him questions about that. Anyway, as Tina said, my role here is to formally introduce Colin and Richard. Let me just say a few words about Richard at the beginning and try to keep it short with Richard because he's worked for 25 years professionally in the world of performing arts and arts journalism. In that time, he has written, directed, and acted in more than 225 productions. He served as artistic director of 5 major Canadian theatres and been an associate director of the Stratford Festival. He's also taught and/or directed at the University of British Columbia, Simon Fraser, Winnipeg, George Brown College, and Sheridan College. And he's been the Star's main theater critic since the year 2000. But he also writes celebrity profiles for us and has a regular Saturday feature in the Star called The Big Interview. He did Colin Mochrie last week. He's also hosted a weekly CBC radio program on musical theater and served as creative head of arts programming at TV Ontario. And in his spare time, he's written 6 books. Now, Colin Mochrie. Colin was born in Scotland. He says he was shy as a child, stating that neighbors would have commented that he watched way too much television. When he was 6, his family moved first to Montreal and later to Vancouver, where he was a self-proclaimed loner who wanted to become a marine biologist. One year, while in high school, a friend persuaded him to try out for a play where he played the role of an undertaker. He was hooked when he got his first laugh. Since then, Colin has been entertaining Canadians and fans around the world with his comedy, especially his improv, his acting, and now, with this new book, Not Quite Classics, his writing. He is best known for his roles on Whose Line Is It Anyway? This Hour Has 22 Minutes, and as host of Are You Smarter Than a Canadian Fifth Grader? I don't think I'd want to tackle him on that one. Colin has won 2 Canadian Comedy Awards, a Gemini Award, and a Writers Guild of Canada Award for This Hour Has 22 Minutes. He never seems to stop working on stage, in films, and now at a writing desk. Just a few weeks ago, he was in Australia, and now he's touring Canada on a schedule that Richard described in the Star last week as more crowded than a Kardashian family counseling session. Colin lives in Toronto with his wife and son and 2 dogs that he says won't come when called. Please welcome Colin Mochrie and Richard Ouzounian.
I learned a few years ago the perils of trying to ad-lib humorously with Colin Mochrie. And I don't even know if he remembers this. It will come back to him. It was the 50th anniversary of Second City in Chicago. And a bunch of us, journalists, comedians, people, were all on a Porter Airlines plane going to be flying to Chicago in a very bad windstorm. And I think it was your wife, Deb, who tried to lighten our spirits and said, well, if the plane goes down, I wonder what the newspapers will say, ha, ha, ha. And I opened my big yap and said, oh yeah, I can see the globe now. Canadian cultural icon Colin Mochrie perishes, 8 television shows have to finish. There was a pause, and he said, and I can see the Toronto Star now. Ouzounian crashes and burns once again. So
That doesn't seem right.
I've learned I would never do it again.
I have to say, I thought your resume was much more impressive than mine.
Yeah, but more people are interested in yours. That's the important thing.
Well, sex sells.
Now, so You took that Kardashian comment seriously, didn't you? Shall we talk about the book first and then get into your sordid life? Okay, good.
Sure.
If, in case anybody here doesn't know, I will say how brilliant it is, so he won't have to say it. He came up with a magnificent idea, which is to take a lot of great works of literature and keep the first line and the last line of them intact. And then he went off to Colin Mochrie land in between. And sometimes it bears a little resemblance, sometimes it bears no resemblance. But the one thing that all the chapters have in common is that they're hilarious. And end of commercial, but you should buy the book. It's great. It's like having, oh, and I was about to realize this would be tacky. It's like having Colin at your bedside table.
Every woman's dream.
Every man's nightmare. Which is your favorite chapter?
Oh, there's a couple. I like the Sherlock Holmes one because I didn't think it was I'd be able to write a Sherlock Holmes story. The only reason, most of the other chapters have nothing really to do with the original story, but the first line of this had Sherlock Holmes in it, so I basically had to use him. But there was no way I could come up with a mystery that would, perplex the most intelligent man in the world. So I decided to use something where I felt a little superior to Sherlock Holmes, and so he decides to become a stand-up comedian. And I was amazed at how easily that flowed, because I haven't read a lot of Sherlock Holmes. I've seen all the movies, but I read maybe a couple of the stories, but it seemed to flow and it sounded right. My agent just said, "Did you write that in an English accent?" And I think I did. I could hear the voices. Yeah. And the one based on Frankenstein, about a man who, okay, it's going to sound weird, but it's a man who strikes up a beautiful friendship with a chicken.
That's good.
Yeah.
You have to read it.
You have to read it. I like it because it's different, and I find it quite touching. I thought, yes, you laugh, but when you read it, you will weep.
And you will not eat an egg for weeks afterwards.
Exactly. Yeah, so those were, all of them I like for various reasons, but those two are the two that kind of stand out to me.
Well, I was, again, hearing your biography and things that happened, the first thought I had is, what if your parents had not given up on Montreal? What do you think would have happened to Colin Mochrie had he stayed in Montreal?
You know what? I have no idea. There was an even closer call. We moved to Vancouver. My father couldn't find any work. He worked in sheet metal, but he had worked on the airlines fixing engines. And he just could not get any work. So he decided, that's it. We're moving back to Scotland. So he sold everything. We were in a motel, and I think we were like 2 weeks away from the flight. And he decided at the last minute, I'm going to give it another try. And then 2 weeks later, he got a job with Air Canada, and that sort of changed our lives around. And I keep thinking, what would have happened if I'd gone back to Scotland? I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be here.
And Billy Connolly would only be the second best comedian in Scotland.
Yeah, I think he'd still be pretty safe.
Okay.
So I think that would have totally changed my life, because I'm not really sure. I was lucky when I was in Vancouver. That's when the improv boom started to happen, and that's when I got involved, and that's led to Whose Line, which led to this. Without that, I have no idea, because I have no skills. And I'm not being humble. I have no skills. There's nothing I can do. If this hadn't worked out, I'd be so screwed.
Do you make a good Do you make a good sandwich?
I'm a very good cook,
okay,
but I don't like people. So I wouldn't do well in a restaurant situation.
Again, your childhood wasn't exactly a textbook, this is how to make a kid happy, being uprooted on several occasions. And I think you did tell me at greater length once about how awful those weeks, months in the motel were, waiting for your life to settle out. How did that, when you finally became a comic, translate? Are you fighting away that insecurity and depression, or are you mocking it, or pretending it didn't happen, or what do you do with it?
I think that period helped me in my improv, and I could accept things. I was able to go with the flow. I mean, I had no power. I couldn't say to my father, no, we're staying, because
Right.
he was Scottish. But I did learn throughout my life, it's been, when something has happened, I've learned to sort of go with it and find a way to get around it or through it. And, you know, I've said basically my career has been based on revenge. So many times people have said, well, you know, you're not going to go anywhere, you're limited. You know, improv, this was not an occupation when I was growing up. So, but I'm really petty, and my career is based on showing those people, yes, I can do something with what I have. Sure, it's limited. Hopefully it will be a lesson to people who think they can't do things. I make up crap for a living. I could be a senator. That's it.
Bob alluded to the fact that when you were in high school, you made a triumphant appearance in The Life and Death of Sneaky Fitch as
A
the
classic,
Undertaker.
yes.
But the real important thing that happened, because it took you years to get back to the stage, was that you used that, or they gave you that as a chance to start doing your first real improv gig during the announcements.
Oh, yeah. I would, there were announcements every day about, you know, there's school dance coming up on the 21st. Please be there. Show your support. Slave Day, which I always thought, Slave Day sounds wrong. They would auction off students to people to raise money for the school. So
Why didn't they ever make 12 years in Killarney High School?
I don't know. It would have gone really well. And so I, with a couple of friends, approached the principal and said, you know, I'd like to do the announcements and, you know, maybe do it in a way that's a little funnier, and perhaps people will actually listen to them. So that would, I get there a half hour before everybody else was there, and sort of come up with a script idea. And then my friends and I would sort of improvise the announcements, and it became really popular. And I became famous in my school as the guy who would do the funny announcements, and it actually did help. Dance attendance went up. So it was the first time I sort of realized how humor can actually educate people. Oh, not educate, but you listen more when you laugh.
Can you recall any one of them when you did? Like, you must have one of them tucked away in your brain.
Oh, God, no. I remember I did a lot of Batman parodies. So it was like Batman and Robin, you know, the Joker. Well, one of the bands we had at our high school was Heart.
Okay.
They were pretty amazing and really cute. And so I believe I was Batman trying to stop Joker from capturing Heart and doing horrible things to him. It was really funny. You have to trust me on this. It was really funny.
Now, it's interesting, you got into two topics here that have all intertwined. You talked about how the dance popularity went up, and you talked about how, you know, Heart was a really cute band. But you've also told me that you discovered early on that being a comedian didn't get you any girls in high school.
Oh, God, no. And I love women. And what I love about them is a lot of times they don't really care what you look like. If you have a nice personality, they'll give you a chance, where men are much more shallow that way. But in high school, although many girls liked me because I was funny and very sweet, but that made me the friend, or you're just like a brother I never had. Unless you're at a school of hillbillies, doesn't lead anywhere. So my dating life in high school and actually well into college was pretty sparse. I mean, I was liked, but not in that way.
Right. This is something we
Thanks
never...
for bringing that up, by the
Thank
way.
you. I will help you deliver the happy ending later.
Oh, good,
Okay, good. College, you went to Vancouver City College, and you were in their theater program. Now I always forget, was it Studio 58 or 55 or
58?
58. And Anthony Holland was still running it then,
Yeah.
wasn't he? Who's kind of an eccentric, crusty British guy. And how did you get along with him?
It was rocky, our first, when I first auditioned for him, he did this thing. and I actually saw him 2 days ago in Vancouver, and I meant to ask him this. When he would audition you, he would have a newspaper. So you would do your audition, and he would just read, and then sometimes he'd pretend to fall asleep. And I thought, well, this isn't really welcoming, and it's hard for you to do your best work when you hear the rustling and sleeping. But and again, I should ask him this. He admitted me to the school, and it was a tough school to get into, and I was pretty raw, and I don't think I was that good, but sex sells. So, so we get through our first term, and we have our end of terms one-on-one, and all he said to me was, "You're very good at low comedy." I took that as a compliment because Anthony also was very good at low comedy. He would direct some shows, and he would put things in where you go, well, that's just... Benny Hill would be ashamed to do that. Yeah. But I think I actually wore him down, and he actually really started to enjoy me and think I was funny and liked me. And we before I graduated, we had this really lovely bond, and we still communicate through emails. He's just turned 92 and a half. He's doing 5 one-man shows, Tuesdays with Maury. He's working more than I am, and he's still sharp as a tack. He's a little slower, of course, physically, but he's a great inspiration. And he said, "I'll give you my book if you send me yours." So he gave me his book, which I just read on the plane. Fascinating story. So now I have to buy a book and send it to him.
Now, in the middle of this, well, maybe not conventional, but more traditional theater background, you were lucky. A kind of a door just opened up that would take you somewhere for the rest of your life the day that those guys came. Tell them about it.
I was a friend of, I was still in theater school, and a friend was doing a play reading of a new play. And part of the evening there was a thing that had been invented by this Englishman living in Calgary called theater sports, which was improv done in a sports setting. There were 2 teams. There was a referee who would issue challenges. There were judges that would judge the improv. And the improvisers were amazing people. There was Morris Panich, who is a great director. Bob Baker, also director, and I think was artistic director of the Citadel for a while. Still is. And some great actors, Jill Dom.
Jay Brazeau was?
Jay Brazeau, yeah. And they did this theater sports where they got suggestions from the audience and made up things. And I was just, I just fell in love with it. Partly because I'm lazy, and I thought, hey, you don't have to learn stuff. But I just thought, this is the greatest thing. So I heard there were some theater sports workshops, and signed up and found that I didn't actually need a lot of workshops. I immediately got it and felt so comfortable in that world. And that the next week I was doing matches. And we were doing it in a small theater. It was the perfect theater for improv. It was small and intimate, there was a 3-cornered stage, and the audience was really close. And we were doing shows at 11 o'clock at night. When we were starting, we would run to the McDonald's next door and pull people in and say, you got to watch this. And by the end of the year, we were the big thing in Vancouver. People would line up around the block at midnight to see these people make up a show before their very eyes. And it was the great thing. It wasn't just actors. There were writers, directors, but one of the great improvisers, he was a cable installer. It just seemed to speak to people who needed this outlet to do it, and it was so much fun.
Again, the first time you did it successfully, did you feel like, I don't know, you had done drugs, or you were on a high, or you had jumped out of a plane? What was it like?
Well, never having done drugs.
Did you inhale while you improv?
No. It did have that, what I imagine heroin would be. It was just this incredible rush. It was a rush from beginning to end. Just as you're standing off stage and you realize, oh, the audience has They bought tickets to see a show. We don't have it. And that's when the rush starts. And then you go out, and there's, it's sort of it's a rush mixed with a calm. There's that excitement, but there's also, I'm home, I'm with these people that I trust, and I know it's all going to work out. There's this optimism that I have in no other part of my life, where I know it's going to work out. And there is that rush of, I just made that up, and this entire audience, with their differences and their whatever makes them laugh, laughed at this thing I said, and it's just exciting. It really did become, whenever there was a week where I didn't play, it was so depressing. And I couldn't watch because that depressed me more, especially if they were good. You just go, oh! But because I wanted to jump up there and do it. I just wanted to perform all the time.
Again, they always say the actor's nightmare is the actor waking up or having a dream that he's in a play and doesn't know the lines and doesn't know what he's supposed to say. Would your nightmare be that you were in a play and you had a memorized script?
No, I'm actually very good. I'm a very good memorizer. Scripts come very easily to me, which is great because I don't put a lot of work into them, so I can just read them the day of, do them. But I was reminded, I was in Winnipeg last night, and I saw a couple of old friends, Rob Metcalf and Miriam Smith. And Miriam and I had done a show called I'll Be Back Before Midnight at the Vancouver Playhouse. And we're in this farm in the middle of nowhere. There's a sinister handyman. There's possibly an incestuous relationship with the sister. But we're in the middle of nowhere. And there was this scene where the door of the big pot-bellied stove is supposed to blow open, and it's kind of a little scare, and it's fine. Well, for some, I guess they put a little too much explosive in, and it blew the thing off the top, and there was a fire. I mean, not a big fire, but there was a fire in the stove, and I'm looking at it going, I'm an improviser, I should come up with something. And I'm looking at it, and Miriam's kind of looking at me going, and there was nothing. And then the stage manager came on with a fire extinguisher, put out the fire, and left. And I had all that time, and I still could not think of anything. I was going, how do I explain a woman with a fire extinguisher coming onto this deserted farm and then just leaving? We'd never see her again.
But if it was an improv sketch, you would have been there.
Oh, it would have been perfect. But I kept thinking, there's no way I can make sense of this, so it never happened.
Yeah. Now, it's great that you telling this story. Do you think then improv versus traditional theater may be a right brain, left brain kind of thing? That you know, different parts of you?
Yeah, it is a different muscle. When I was doing art with Pete Donaldson and Evan Bueling, and I hadn't done theater in a long time, and Morris was directing, and they were incredibly supportive and protective of me because I hadn't done it for a while. But it is that there was also that worry that, oh, he's going to start making up stuff. And I never would in a play because I really respect the playwright. It's your job to use those words to get their ideas and their view across. But it was a totally, it never even came into my mind, oh, I'm going to try a new line here, see if that works. It was just, this is the work, this is what I'm going to do, I have to make this clear. And there was one line that I was sure was a joke. And I couldn't get the laugh. And I was, you know, I tried a little improv in my head, like, oh, I'll try it like I'm really upset because of something. Maybe that'll give the inflection it needs, and nothing. And 2 days before the end of the show, you know, I'd totally given up. And it got the laugh. And I didn't know why. And that was irritating. It was like, why did it get the laugh now? And I'm pretty sure I didn't do anything different, but for some reason, the audience's one laughed. And that, for the rest of the show, just niggled at me. But it was still a good performance.
Okay, good. Now, you're in your 20s, you're improvising next door to McDonald's, city stage, right, in the basement and everything, and it's fun, but did you ever say, is this going anywhere, or?
No. I mean, they started we started getting paid because it started becoming very successful. And then we started doing improvised shows. We did an improvised Hamlet, which went really well. It's Hamlet and his friends have a theater sports match against Claudius and his friends, and it was, but there's still parts of the play. So Polonius gets killed in the middle, and his father's ghost comes in the middle of a match and gives him advice. So, and it became a big success. And then we did another one called Suspect, a Game of Murder, which was a murder mystery, and was hugely successful, and probably one of the best shows I've ever been involved with. It had a great mixture of script and improv, and we started making money, so we started getting paid. But I thought, that's it.
Right.
And then Expo happened, and we were doing a lot of improv shows, which was fun. But then I felt like I was just doing the same thing over and over again, and I was looking for a challenge. And the woman I was with at the time said, "Why don't we go to Toronto? Because we have some friends there, maybe do more theater." So I moved out there. Ryan Stiles, who was on the show with me and who had improvised with the theater sports, was at Second City. And he called one day and said, there's an opening in the touring company. You should come and audition for it. So I did, and the woman who auditioned me was Deb McGrath, who I ended up marrying. It was a grueling audition. Covered so many bases. I thought, what's this about? Washing dishes. And then I got involved with Second City, and then Whose Line came through that. The Whose Line producers were doing a cross-country audition tour, and they saw our cast and auditioned us.
But with true Mochrie luck.
Yeah, because we worked as a cast, we were doing what you're supposed to do in improv. You support each other, and you make each other look good, and you work on making the scene look good. So we were doing great scenes, but nobody stood out, so none of us got cast. Yeah. And then the next year, Deb and her writing partner, Linda Cash, had written a show that was being produced by Imagine Television, so we moved down to LA, and the Whose Line people came through again, and I was auditioning with people I didn't know, so it was, hey, screw you, look at me. And an important lesson for the kids out there. Look out for yourself at all costs.
Yeah. So, because that worked. No.
Yeah. So, and then I got it. And went to England. My first show, I sucked. But luckily, Ryan Stiles, they were doing some shows in New York the next year. And Ryan said, give Colin another chance. And they had kind of liked me. They were just disappointed that my first show was so horrible. And so they paired me up with Ryan, who I'd worked with for years before Whose Line, and it worked. And
now, on that show, when you're horrible, does it mean like you can't think of anything to say, or everything you say doesn't work, or everything you say just lands like an egg? Or
I was
what
just
is it?
very tentative. I'd met the 3 other people a couple of hours before we taped the show, and they were lovely. They were all lovely, But, and they knew each other, and they'd worked together. And I was the outsider, and I just played mind games on myself, going, oh, well, will Britain understand me? Yes, we speak the same language, but will they get this weird Canadian? And I think I got one laugh when I pretended I was a salmon. And
that was Canadian.
Yes, it was very Canadian, but nothing to build a career on. So the producer before the show, Dan Patterson, said, if it goes well, you can do the show on Sunday. Then after the show, he came up and said, so you're leaving Monday, are you? Which I felt was a bad sign.
Yeah.
But once he paired me up with Ryan, from there, they just kept adding more shows for me. Although every year, I would get the contract, and they would contract me for 2 shows. And I would always end up doing the entire thing, but they just wanted to hedge their bets.
That's amazing. Again, it was rehearsed and performed and taped in a very short period of time, right?
Yeah, it was, we go to Britain, and I think their order was 12 shows. So that would be 3 weekends.
Wow. And then so this, in effect, the big chunk of your career that people remember you for and made you a star was done like a couple of long weekends.
Yeah, it didn't take any time at all. And it sort of came back to bite me in the posterior because people thought I was just working all the time, where in fact I was doing 3 weekends, and then every once in a while I'd get cast in something, but because it was all spread out over weeks, people thought, oh, he's just constantly working and saying yes to everything. It's like, no, I'm saying yes to things 4 months apart. I have to work. And especially during the time when I was doing 22 Minutes and Whose Line. I was going back and forth between Halifax and LA. And the LA stuff was really easy, as I said, 3 weekends. The Halifax stuff was considerably harder. It was a lot of writing and a lot of working. And
But is that more competitive too, though?
oh yeah, because there's that Wednesday reading where everybody has their material, and they read all their material, and then that's the producers go away and they pick what your. The first week I was there, I wrote, I think, 10 sketches, and I think 1 got picked. And Greg Toomey came up to me afterwards and said, "Don't do that. Write maybe 3, because once they're gone, they rarely come back and take them again."
Oh, okay.
And so I learned to actually write on the plane when I was going to the studio, and those were the ones that would always get picked. For some reason, I would just like type something in the 2-hour flight to Halifax, and then read it, and always. And so I realize everything I say is a really bad life lesson. Don't put a lot of thought into your work. And don't work well with others.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Mary Walsh was here a little while ago, and in one of the off-stage conversations we were having, I said, "How come the Newfoundland comedy tradition is so built on the rant? With everyone going?" And she said, "Well, it's so no one else can feckin' get a line in and interrupt you and ruin your show." And that's why I'm not going to. Rick Mercer, shut up. Kathy, shut up. I'm talking now.
Oh, so Mary was amazing. She would come in and. I'd have my little weird sketch, and she would have these rants. And she would have like a paragraph, and then she'd say, "I'll do the rest, when we tape." And they'd go, "Yeah, okay." And then they'd come up with this amazing material. She just amazed me every week. She was amazing to watch. I wish I had like a 10th of her writing skill.
Cool. I mean, again, she does something different. Like when you improvise, you either improvise within a sketch or you improvise verbally, word games. But have you ever improvised at length a character, or improvised around a character?
In Toronto, and I urge you to see these guys if you ever do, because they're great. The National Theatre of the World.
Yeah.
They do one of the many things they do is they improvise a play based on a playwright. So with them, I've done Tennessee Williams, Chekhov, Mamet, Noel Coward, and starts off. They talk to the audience. They ask, what's happening in your world, what's happening in the world today. Then from that, we get a title and just do a 1-act play as if it was written by Tennessee Williams, and we keep the same character. And what I love about that process is, unlike with when you're playing short games, people always like jump in and do stuff. The pace is slower. People leave scenes, which you never see in the short form. And it has just this wonderful integrity to the character and the style. And yes, it's not going to be a Tennessee Williams that you would see in a Tennessee Williams, but it has enough of the flavor, and it's still wacky, but it's still true to the form. And I love doing that. I've had so much fun working with them.
That's cool. I don't know if I'm misremembering this or not, but I seem to recall a Corner Gas episode that you appeared on, where the joke was how many shows Colin Mochrie was on at the time?
Yes, it was, I think the concept was Hank was going to join an improv group, and there was a lot of fun. They were making a lot of fun about improv, and it was in the diner, and they're talking about, that bald guy who's in everything. Then I walked by, I go, "Hey, Brett," and he goes, "Hey," and I keep walking. And at the end, I did a little, Brett was doing a public announcement about libraries and reading books, and I just came in and horned in, and he just went, "You are in everything, aren't you?" I said, yeah. But again, I wasn't. 3 weekends I'd worked that year. But it was fun to do. Mark Farrell, who ran 22 Minutes, also ran Corner Gas, so he's so Canadian. He said, "Is it all right if we make fun of you?" Yeah, because you'd be the first.
Yeah. Now, again, the typical thing we get with Colin Mochrie is, I'm going to dump on myself probably so you won't do it, or I'll do it before you, and I'm going to tell you how insecure I am. What would make you feel that you were really validated and accepted as a performer or a star or a Canadian or anything?
Jeez. My God, I don't know. You know what? I felt validated by the success of Whose Line. When they were doing the American version, there were talks of me not being part of that because I'm bald and I was older, and you don't want to see that on American television. Dan Patterson, the producer, said, "You know what? It works with the ugly guys." So, and he was right. I mean, there's no such thing as a good-looking improviser. And then when we went to the CW, which is a youth-oriented network, there was a headline in the newspaper: "CW pins hopes on older ugly people."
And this is, I've asked you to think of your most successful thing, and this is
Oh
what's
yeah,
coming
no,
out.
that's it.
Okay.
But here's the thing. Again, they were talking about replacing Ryan and I because we're older. Every taping we did for the CW, the audience was under 25, and they laughed at us, even though we were old. And for me, it was like, yes. We're not doing hard-hitting satire. We're just doing goofy comedy that any age can laugh at. And when you're doing it, you tend to slough it off because it's goofy. But I've had so many people come up and say, "I was going through a horrible time, a divorce, a family member was dying." Deb and I were at a Leafs game, and this young boy came up and he had his Leafs sweater and he said, "Could you sign this?" And I said, "Yeah, do you really want me to sign the sweater though? I'll sign anything, but and he started to cry. And he said, "My father and I used to watch your show all the time. He got cancer. When he was sick, we would watch it and we would forget for that half hour." And Deb and I are just like crying. Cut to the Jumbotron. But we talked to this young man, and he was just one of many people who come up. And for me, I always thank them for reminding me that yes, we're doing we're doing a service in a way. For half an hour, you can forget whatever's happening in your life, whatever's happening in the world. So for me, that validated what I was doing. I thought, you know what? Yeah, it is goofy. Yeah, I'm making up crap, but I'm doing something for a little while for someone, and not everyone can say that. So I'm proud of what Whose Line has done. It sort of got improv out there. It started groups in schools, so kids have been improvising. Families have come up and said, we've played the games with the kids. We have improv nights. So for me, that makes me feel great. That really stokes my ego.
Well, the other thing is probably the big success of your life is your marriage.
A lot of work.
I know, Deb works very hard.
Deb has worked incredibly hard. Incredibly hard.
When you guys met, who kind of marked who first?
Oh, her.
Really?
Okay. And because
she said, "I want that ugly bald guy."
Yeah. Well, when I auditioned for her, she said, "It's between you and the cute guy," and I got it. And part of the problem was she was married.
Okay.
Yeah, it tends to be a sticking point. And again, I was not, and this will surprise many of you, I was not that at ease with women. I loved women, and I was very good as a friend, but I never thought, oh, here's who I'm going after, or this woman's in. I missed every signal. And a couple of months after we had been working together, we went up to a friend's cottage, and she kept trying to get me to go places with her. Like she said, oh, there's these amazing flowers you should come see. And I go, well, I'm just reading this book. And she'd say, oh, they're down here. I saw these amazing animals. We should go. And I go, oh, well, we're just playing some Trivial Pursuit. God bless her for hanging in there. And then she said, let's take a canoe ride. I went, oh, well, nobody else is up. All right. So we went out, and it was really hot. And I kept going, am I getting burnt? Because she goes, no, listen. I'm kind of attracted to you, and blah, blah, blah. And I just kept going, I think I'm getting sunburned. So we kind of discussed our feelings, and then we went back, and sure enough, I had like burns. I was like totally, totally burnt. And it was an awful time in many ways because of just the whole situation of breaking up a marriage. But it ended up lovely, and her ex-husband, and he comes over for dinner. He lives in Edmonton. He's a great improviser, a great actor. And for me, it was, although it had a horrible start, it was really meant to be, because she, and oddly enough, she said, I thought you'd be easier to change. But I've actually changed quite a bit because of her. And she's an incredibly optimistic person, almost sickeningly so. And through her, I've learned to sort of, see what I have and enjoy what I have. And she's done incredible things for me. And I'm just, every day when I see her, I have my breath taken away from her. I just look at her and go, oh, wow, how did this happen? And I'm not going to cry. I said I wouldn't. But yeah, she's an incredibly important part of my life. And without her, I wouldn't be out here. She pushes me and makes sure that I work at the top of my game.
That's great. I think that's a good thing to go to audience questions on. Okay? Don't be afraid.
I'm very sweet. Does
nobody want to improvise with him? No. Right. I have more I can ask him, but I just thought you guys always like to have a chance out there. No? Yes. Come to the microphone, please. Yeah. So you can be humiliated publicly.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good.
What's your name?
Samara, really excited to meet you.
Oh, of course you are.
What would you say to an up-and-coming performer who's trying to give it their all and just pushing through and trying to get to hopefully one day somewhat of what you have?
Give up. My thing is make sure that this is the thing that you want to do, and make sure you're doing it because you love it and not because you want celebrity or to be a star, because sometimes that love of it is all you have and yourself. And do it wherever you can. When I was starting improvising, we would be working in a really small theater where the cast would outnumber the audience. But through that, you learn where your strengths are. You learn how, all right, I have to entertain this audience of 3. And you work really hard, and you find ways to do it. And some of those shows were some of the most fulfilling shows I've ever had. It's tough. Is it actor or improvising?
Acting.
Yeah.
But still.
Yeah. No, because acting is tough because you have to depend on others to hire you. Mm-hmm. What you can do, what's great now as opposed to when I was growing up in the last century, is you have like YouTube and the internet, so you can actually get your stuff out there. If you write monologues for yourself and sort of get it out, but go to classes, do it wherever you can. Go to the ACTRA union and look at the board and see where there's scene classes. Just do it. And my thing always was, there are many improvisers as good or better than me, thousands. But the thing that I had was I'm really stubborn. And my thing was, I'm going to hang in till everyone else quits or dies. And then partly because, as I said before, I had nothing else to fall back on, so I had to. But yeah, the first thing is make sure if there's anything else you can do, anything else that you love doing, check into that. Really, because acting can be at times soul destroying and rejection all the time. And you have to be strong to get through that, and you have to have this belief in yourself, and it's really easy for that belief to erode away after weeks and years of rejection. This must really be depressing you.
Oddly not, because you ended up where you are.
And you know what? When I became famous, I was 40. So that was, I'm 42 now, and it's just going at it. And if you love it, do it for the love. A lot of times, luck plays a big part of it, and all you can do is be ready for when that break happens and go for it with all your might.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. On up. Yep. All the women, Colin, you see.
Well, sex sells.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you? Nice to see you again.
I have a question for you.
All right.
For somebody who's studying directing movies,
okay.
you've acted in many shows. What advice would you have for a director as an actor?
Oh.
What would you expect from a director as an actor?
I like, personally, for a director to sort of stay out of my way until I'm way off, and then for them to say, you know what? No, you're wrong. Because I like to try to find my own way. I've had directors actually, this is what I want you to do, and actually act the scene out for me. And it's like, well, then why didn't you do it? Why did you hire me? You could probably answer this best.
No, you
Because
don't.
you've directed.
You've had some ornery directors.
I've had some. I was in a movie with John Travolta, and it was Nora Ephron directed. And yeah. And of course, as usual in my movie career, my part was cut. But I think there was a small part of it. But she was lovely. And she treated everyone, whether it was John Travolta or me, like we were equals, and would come up and say, you know, this is really nice. Why don't you try? I love the why don't you try, because even if you don't, that particular thing doesn't work, it could lead to something else. It could spark something else that the actor can grab onto and make their own. And she had a calmness, which I've worked with many directors who don't have that, and I find it hard to work in a sort of combative.
Like hostile?
Yeah, it's exhausting, and I tense up, and I love sets where everyone is relaxed, and it's usually the tone is set by the director and the star, where it's, you know, we're having fun here, we're making a movie, we're going to work, but, you know, it's not rocket science. No one should die at the end of it. So creating an atmosphere where the artists feel comfortable enough to go anywhere and feel creative enough to give you what you want, I think that's one of the more important things.
Great.
And a good craft table.
Craft services, yeah. One more question, if that's okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
As a Canadian entering the film industry,
Oh.
what would you say? Would you say stick it out or go to the United States?
You know what? The Canadian in me says stick it out, because we need people making movies here in Canada and forcing Canadians to see them. And I don't mean it that, but I feel there is this, and it's a holdback from when I was growing up, the thing was, oh, no, don't watch that, it's Canadian. Mm-hmm. And I think now, that is totally off base. We have products that are equal to anything in the world. Every year there's a Canadian movie in the Oscar race, in the foreign movie, which still, anyway. Because we're so different from them in many ways. Well, we are. And believe me, I can't say, yeah, stay in Canada, because I went to the States and did a show. But I do try to come back and try to get things happening here, because the natural resources of this country are largely untapped and criminally ignored. Actors, directors, writers get short shrift. They don't get, there isn't the money that America has. There isn't the government support. But there also isn't support of the media. And the audience, a lot of times, are apathetic. Yes, there's a rabid group of Canadian nationalists who watch everything, but we need to broaden that. And it doesn't mean making our product more American-like. And it doesn't even have to be, this movie is Canadian. If you make a movie with Canadians, a Canadian has written it, a Canadian has directed it, it's a Canadian movie. You don't have to beat over the head, well, we're Canadian, look, there's a beaver. We should be free to write our story. Newfoundland, Quebec, BC, all of these provinces are incredibly different. They're all incredibly Canadian, and they all come up with a product that speaks to us, that speaks to Canadians. So I say, yes, try to do it here. Try to do it here. Try to change the landscape here. Then go to the States.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can probably do it one more question. You coming up? Sure. There we go.
All women.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm just curious, you've talked a lot about what got you here, and I'm just curious if you have plans for the future. And what, I know that Whose Line has come back this year, and I'm just curious what your plans are.
Well, first, God bless you, thinking I have plans.
No pressure.
My entire career has been what? We're just going from one thing to another. I have had this 45-year plan that seems to be going very well. I would love to do, well, I love doing what I'm doing. I love, Brad Sherwood and I have been touring for the last 11 years. I love that show because we don't have any interference. We're succeeding and failing on our own merit. When we're good, we're good. When we suck, it's because we suck. We don't have someone saying, hey, you should have a wacky black neighbor. Which is, in television and movies, everybody has a say, and what you want to do may not end up being in the final product. That said, and I think I may have mentioned this to you, I've always wanted to do an action movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, when you watch your typical action movie and you see the hero, whether it's, a Schwarzenegger or Van Damme or Channing Tatum or whoever the new one is, you pretty much know it's going to work out. If I was the action star, there'd be a little more tension. Is he going to make it to the second reel, or is he just going to? So, and no, I don't think anyone will ever do that. But I think it would be a brave choice, and you'd go see it, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
So,
you.
Mr. Mochrie, is there anything I haven't asked you want to expound on?
No. For those of you who bought the book, thank you. This was a hellish experience. It really was. I'm used to working with people, and this was working by myself, hoping that what I was doing was funny. I had great help from Adrian, my editor, and Carly Waters, who was my literary agent, and Jeff Andrews, who made me do this, because he's a dick. No, I just said that because he's here.
And you meant it in the nicest sense.
I meant it in the Swedish way. I don't know. But you know what? It was one of my proudest achievements, having finished this book. I'm really happy with the way it turned out, and I hope you enjoy it. And you know, if not, in the summer you can use it to kill flies. Win-win.
Colin, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Colin Mochrie, everybody.
Thank you.